Thank you, everyone. I'll start this with a simple question. So the idea is actually to ask yourself this question, and then like in a minute or two, just think about it, like how ambitious are you at this moment? Are you here to follow a trend? Are you to set a trend? Are you here to be a part of a big story, small story? Are you here to, are you a type of a person that's basically living to work, or you're working in order like to have a comfortable life? This will be very important to actually to try to put yourself in one of these categories, because like the rest of the thing that I'll actually share with you is more coming from my point of view. My point of view is like I'm ready to sacrifice anything in life to be basically on top of the world. I don't care about the trends. I care about like how to get like the unfair advantage in life, and how to have a chance to impact the world on a really big scale. A little bit about me. These are two halves of my life. On the left side, you see my family. Like my wife and I, we have 6 kids. We met at Ruđer Bošković Institute. She is a nuclear physicist. And on the right side is my career. So last 20 years, I'm in AI. First 5 years as a scientist, and the rest of it as entrepreneur. I'll start with this. So when I give a lecture in front of big companies, CEOs, board members, and so on, I'll just tell them, I'll show them this, and I'll just say, if at your company right now you're talking about data, like how you have like this gigantic amount of data, and it's a gold mine, and you just need someone actually to use machine learning, data mining, or whatever to find these incredible insights, you're 30 years behind market leaders. If you are right now talking about, oh, we need to automate processes in our company, there are so many inefficiencies that we can actually address and so on, you're 15 years behind the market. If you're now talking about generative AI, how you'll build these awesome apps and you will create the descriptions of products, if you will create chatbots that will talk with people and so on, you're 5 years behind the market. Right now, the market is all about relationships. But let me maybe show you this on a graph. Why data was actually 30 years before? Because that was the golden age of internet. That's when actually all these biggest, most successful companies were actually starting to acquire the data and starting to use the data, not just to store it, they were actually starting and using it. And then with the first smartphones and with robotic process automation, which was like 2010, that was the moment when the market leaders actually started and actually deployed these kind of things. Generative AI, I know that like most of people actually started to use it with like ChatGPT or GPT-3 or something like that, but in 2017, that was like when transformers were actually introduced. We already had like ways how to generate text. You already have ways how to actually do NLP and so on. So this is not last 2 years, it's last 5 years. Right now we see what's above the surface, above the line, we talk about it and so on, but it doesn't mean that there are not people in the world who are already working on something that's next stage. So that's something that I learned in Silicon Valley. So this is like one of photos that I took from, I was living in a secret society in San Francisco. This was like, I think like 15 years ago, something like that. And we were living in this big mansion that was before owned by Ella Fitzgerald and then MC Hammer and so on, but now there were 10 founders of like tech startups living together. It was called Factory Zero. And I learned the concept of unfair advantage there. Because like what you see, like this guy in a white shirt, he has something on his face, that's Google Glass. what happened is that people from Google came to our house, they took this box, they opened it, and they said, this is Google Glass. You'll see it 1 year before anyone else in the world. This is your unfair advantage. Start building things for it. Then people from Apple would come and say, look, our new phone will have this sensor. And we all knew, like back then in Silicon Valley, that when new sensor is introduced to a smartphone, that there will be $1 billion company built on top of that sensor. Will it be an accelerometer, will it be like a GPS or whatever? There will be a new business model. There will be at least one big company that will actually leverage that. So if you're like one of the insiders and you had access to that kind of information, if you had access to that kind of technology, you really had a chance to succeed. In this room with me, like the young guy at the back of the room, he, like 2 years ago, he raised $180 million to build a factory that will produce new drugs, new medicine in space. And I was like, we met recently. I was like, what the hell? Like you know nothing about space, and you know nothing about actually producing these drugs and so on. And he'll just say, yeah, but we realize that there are some molecules that you cannot synthesize in the places where you have strong gravity, and we need to go in a place where there's like microgravity. And I had access to capital. I had access to actually talent that knows actually how to do it, and now they have it. The guy with Google Glass and the guy behind him, they have like 2 big gaming companies. The guy in the back that's sitting, working, he's like serial entrepreneur, very successful. And only like this blonde guy, I don't know what's happening. He was like the craziest of all. He was like some kind of like Swedish philosopher or whatever. I'm not sure that he's even alive at this moment, but it was like, there were like more people, not everybody was like included in this picture, but that was the thing. We had the unfair advantage to know what's happening before anyone else. So that's why we don't need to, we were not building generative AI right now, we were building it before. And I'm also trying to tell you the same thing. Make sure that you are not just following the trend, because then the winners are already known, the money is already split. You'll get like just crumbles that are actually falling down from the table. We can talk about this, like what's hype, what's not hype, but I would say it's all bullshit right now. That's like completely not important. Why it's not important? Because 15 years ago, AI was for scientists. Like really, if you were a scientist, that was the moment where you would actually create a foundation for a new lab, for a new company, and so on. Last 10 years, AI was for engineers, building tools. If you're starting to build a tool today, yesterday, or you're like 5 years late. The future is all about design and business models. The tools are already here. People are saying like, I don't care anymore about tools. I already have like OpenAI and Google constantly releasing this tool, that tool, and so on. What can you do with this tool? Can you create value with these tools? If these companies could actually say like, oh, with our new OpenAI GPT-4o model, you increase productivity. They're not saying that. They're just like saying like, see this wow effect, see this wow effect, and so on. Because they're saying we already have a tool, please like join, find a way like how to actually make it useful. This is a very misleading graph. So this is something that you'll find very often everywhere. Everybody will just say, look, we have 3 big platforms that actually change the world. The internet, the smartphone, and now AI. And if you focus on this, you'll be really misled. Why? Because everything for you will be like, oh, wow, now with AI, we can do everything that we were actually doing before, but we'll just do it more efficiently, with less people, faster, and so on. And that's very intuitive. But that's not how you actually build innovation. That's not how you build a great company. This thing here is from the first interview with Jeff Bezos, like 1997. And there's the guy like who's interviewing him, asking like, oh, you're doing this thing Amazon.com. What's Amazon.com? And then Jeff is saying, look, I was working in a Wall Street, and I was like looking these crazy numbers. Like every year, number of people who are going online actually increases for like several thousand %. And I was like thinking like, if this is how the customer is changing, what can I do? What kind of business I can do to meet that change somewhere in the future? Because he realized that the world won't stay the same. The new technology is coming there and the world will change, so something that worked before maybe won't work anymore. And then in this interview, he's just like saying, look, for many businesses, it won't be a big difference. But then I realized that books, there's like 4 million books that are being printed at a time. There's no bookstore, like a brick and mortar bookstore that can hold 4 million books. But if I create an online one, it can beat everything that was there at that time. And that's the thing, because the key to unlock the internet era was to understand that it's all about like immediate access to all the things from some category. So it's not like, oh, I have a bookstore and then we show online what we have. Yeah, people will do it. People who are following the trend, they'll do it. But that's not how you win. You win if you just say, no, you just need to know one internet address and you'll find all the books there. It was similar with the smartphone, so it was not about, oh, I remember those times, it was just like, oh, we have like this web design, now we have a mobile first design because now people can browse the internet with their smartphone. It was not about that. It was about realizing that this thing here can turn me into a superhuman. It can be a powerful tool that enhances my capabilities. And now with AI, it's all about like giving people peace of mind, but we'll come to that. So if we say that like internet, to win in the internet era, it was all about like mastering this immediate access to things, then we could just say, what are the categories? The categories like friends. Oh, we built Facebook. Of course, there were actually forums, chat rooms, and so on, where you could actually spend time with people that you right now consider your friends. But Facebook had like all your past friends, all your current friends, and all your future friends. And it's just like a deal that's like too good not to take it. All the books, Amazon, all the information, Google, all contacts, LinkedIn, and so on. So if you wanted to win, if you're really super ambitious, the key was actually to understand it's not about technology. It's not about me understanding the internet protocol, how it works, how to optimize it, and so on. It was to understand what's changing with the customers and actually to meet that change somewhere in the future when you build that company. With smartphones, it was about, wow, I don't need to have like a map here and then I'm like trying to figure out where I am and so on. It places me on the map. If I say I want to go, I don't know, I want to go to the coast, and it actually leads me there. If you remember, like those days, we were all sharing like, oh, did you see that new app? You didn't need marketing for that because it was such a cool experience to explore that there's something new that actually gives you superhuman capabilities. people who understood that it's all about that feeling empowering me to do something on a completely new scale were actually people who actually built these great, amazing companies. And now, when we are in the AI era, it's easy to say, yeah, we'll build more and more tools, and it will be more efficient because we have AI and so on, but it's not. Why? Because like all the stats are showing people are not installing new apps anymore. They don't want to have a new username and password. They don't want to learn how to click, how to navigate to your website or to your app. It's like understanding that like being a human can be really overwhelming, especially there are so many things that you actually need to satisfy. And it's like, can you build a company that will take part of that burden from my life? Like taking care of my health, taking care of my kids, how to educate them, how to be a good parent. Like even like I'm always like telling people, I don't want to pay for my haircut anymore. I think like paying for haircuts, that's like the matter of the past. I want to pay someone to make sure that I always look decent. Someone who will actually tell me, Mislav, you didn't have your haircut for the last like 3 weeks. You're going next week to Miami. I already contacted hairdressers around you. Like, please click here so that we can actually fix it. And I'll just click and I'll do it. And I'll feel like, wow, someone cares. I'm also driving a car that's always dirty. Not because I don't want to pay for it to get washed, but because it's such a big pain in my life because I'm living on 2 continents, you have 6 kids, you want to spend time with your wife, you have your colleague, you have your startup and so on. I just don't have time to do it. And then I know that like it was raining and then for the weekend it will be sunny and I'll want to wash my car and everybody will want to wash the car at the same time and I'll call and I'll get rejected. So I want someone who will just say, Mislav, look, let me take care of it. I don't want to do a research what kind of winter tires. I don't want to research what kind of dog food for my dog and when to change it and so on. I want someone to take some part of the burden. Start thinking about this because this is where actually the new and these big companies that will change the world, they'll master this actually trade. Who knows who this guy is? Only one person. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. Few people here as well. So 15 years ago, the only important thing was, if you are talking about your health, what, for example, Mayo Clinic is saying, or what Cleveland Clinic is saying. They had like the best doctors, scientists, and so on. They would actually publish these reports. You need to eat eggs every day, or you cannot eat eggs every day, and so on. It would change and so on. But we would actually say they have scientists, and they were actually channeling the way how we were actually behaving in the end. This guy here has a different story. His story is like, I'm spending $2 million a year on how to reverse my aging. And he is constantly posting content saying, I don't know, how to feel like you're 25 again, why you should eat chocolate every day, how to have an erection of an 18-year-old, how to reverse my hair loss, and so on. And he's constantly publishing information. Look, I'm like, have a bone mineral density of a 30-year-old. I'm like older than 50. I'm like 18-year-old in terms of VO2 max. He learned like one really important thing is like he established or he created a relationship with people who are actually following him by creating this content because he knows that hospitals don't know how to do this. Mayo Clinic doesn't know how to talk with us. He knows how to talk with us. And there are so many people who are just saying like, and I'm one of them. Before my body was like going like this, and I was like feeling nothing can happen to me. And then at some point, now I'm 43, at some point I realized, I'm not getting stronger and stronger and stronger. Now I feel I'm like going like this. Is my Mayo Clinic calling me and saying like, Mislav, do you really want to die sooner? You want to actually live longer, better? Do you want to play better soccer? And so they're not doing it. They don't care. This guy here, every time when I open my TikTok or whatever, he's always there saying like, this is how you'll prolong your life. You can live to be like 200 years old. And people started to listen. At the same time, he knows that he'll just say, you can do all these exercises, you can do all this shit and so on, but you can also take these 42 types of pills that he's taking on a daily basis that he's calling a blueprint. And he'll build a $1 billion business out of it. Because he's targeting like longevity industry. So what's actually changing? Why people care more what Brian Johnson is saying than what actually Mayo Clinic is saying? Because we live in something that's called post-truth era. Post-truth means that it's more important what we feel is true than what is actually based on facts. Content is so cheap, it's so easy to generate content like in any way, artificial way, whatever, that we don't trust it anymore. Like, I don't want to read any reviews anymore because it's so easy to create millions and millions of reviews that actually all sound very authentic, but they're not. Like 5 years ago, when I actually founded Creation AI Association, and when someone would actually ask me, what's my biggest fear about AI? I was not saying, oh, there will be a Terminator and so on. I was just saying, like, we'll use AI to control how people perceive reality. And we as humans have a big problem actually to fight it back. Because if I control all the content that you're seeing, if I can understand your emotion, if I can actually feed you with what you want to hear, basically a lot of this is like what this guy here is doing. He's just like picking all our fears, like all people who are actually getting older, like understand all these fears, and he's just like feeding you with the content that's just saying, there is a way out, just start buying my pills. And millions of people will just say, yeah, that's it. He is at least giving some kind of recipe because these other companies are not. Every year, this Eldman Group is actually doing a research on like 26 countries around the world about trust index. Who do we trust? What's very cool to see here is that now people trust scientists at the same level to actually people like them. So if someone like one of your friends tells you, oh, I did a cryotherapy, oh my God, like all my muscle soreness, everything went away, it's changing my life, I'm even thinking that it's preventing a cancer in my body. People really believe that shit. They stop believing the governments. They are stopping to believe actually media and so on. They're actually believing in things that feel right, like they will want to be right. And many people, like when we talk about these kind of things, will actually say, oh my God, the world is going in a wrong direction. If it's not actually fact-based anymore, if it's not scientific-based anymore, it's just like going in a wrong direction. And I'm just saying, yeah, it sounds like a problem, but it also sounds like an opportunity. And it's an opportunity for people who want to build companies that will actually change the world. Because it is inefficiency. these big organizations, governments, healthcare institutions, banks, and so on, they'll need to learn how to actually talk and how to establish relationship with customers. Because in a world where everything is fake, you'll still trust the person. But if this institution doesn't know how to establish that relationship, you'll trust your friend. So we'll be living in something that's called relationship economy. And are we preparing ourselves for the relationship economy? Are we thinking like the job, the business that I'm building right now, is it something that's here to own the relationships, to manage the relationships, to build, nourish relationships? Or it's here actually, or I'm automating how to actually move one number from this program to this other program, or I'm actually just filtering the data in a company, because when we get all this data in one big pile, we'll, I don't know, get like amazing insights. It's just like, it sounds so pathetic, especially when you see like what's actually happening in the world. So I'll use this example to show you, for example, that in hospitality industry, if you're owning a restaurant, and if your restaurant doesn't know or doesn't own actually relationship with your customers, especially regular customers, there are companies, for example, in the US, it's called like Uber Eats, but here we have Wolt, Bolt, Glovo, whatever. They actually didn't even need to convince actually restaurants that they don't know how to talk with their customers, because restaurants don't know how to talk with their customers. That's it. They then convinced actually users that it's hard actually to find a phone number, it's hard to find the menu. No, it is, because that relationship doesn't exist. Then they also realized that all these drivers who also want to work and want to earn some money, that they don't know how to negotiate with restaurants, how to actually do the payments and so on. So they said like, we'll be owning relationships, and we'll help you actually to sell your food, we'll help you to get the food that you actually want, we'll help you to get like all these gigs where you're actually driving the food from the restaurant. And it feels like everybody is profiting, but the company that's profiting the most is Uber Eats, because Uber Eats is taking 30% cut from the restaurant, they're taking like 10% cut from the driver, they're actually taking 5% cut for the delivery fee from without owning any of the restaurants, without owning any of the vehicles, without actually taking any real risk except for owning the relationship. And when you see, for example, Uber as a company, what they're actually doing, they're just like scaling that business models. They said like taxi drivers, they don't know how to talk with their customers and how to actually own the relationship. We'll actually own the relationship in the taxi space. We'll do the same for package delivery. We'll do the same for food delivery. We'll do the same for airplanes and so on, because we are in a relationship economy. What I'm trying to do about it, for example, I'm a founder of Mindsmiths, and we said we'll be the relationship AI company. Why relationship AI company? Because like 4 years ago when I founded Mindsmiths, I was like, the world is actually going in that direction. And in a world where everything is fake, it will all be about who do I trust. And then it will all be about like how to build trust, because not many people actually know how to build trust, and especially not how to build trust in some like automatic, scalable way. So we said like, we'll build a set of tools, we'll build actually methodology, how to build, nurture those relationships. So I'll just like show you quickly, for example, what kind of results you can expect. So this is like one of results from one of our clients. It's like a big enterprise company, and when they send a message to 100 of their customers, subscribers, so not like random people from the script, like subscribers that actually are paying them like a monthly fee, only 3 out of 100 actually read their message. And we approached them and we said them, look, your relationship with your customers is not 5 out of 10. And they were like very angry. How do you mean it's not 5 out of 10? Like, do you know, like, we are a market leader, we are big, we are powerful, we are the best. You said, oh, maybe you have like the best product or like the best service, but your relationship with customers is not even 2 out of 10. It's probably minus 2 out of 10. How can you say that? I said like, oh, very, very easy. I would ask them a question. What do you do with people in your life who, whenever they text you, they ask you for money, for a favor, or they want to sell you something? And we just say, oh, these are the worst people. Like, I said, what do you do with them? We mute them. Okay, you mute them. I said, like, you're also on a mute. Because every time when you send me a message, now as their client, I would show them, like, every time when you send me a message, it's like, Mislav, you owe me money, or Mislav, your contract is expiring, you need to continue paying, or Mislav, we want to sell you this Microsoft Office package or whatever. And I was like, why are you even selling that to me? That just like doesn't belong in this story. So it's like, and now that's how you actually became like a part of my spam folder. I don't care, you're on mute. And they were like, how can we change it? Like, what can we do in order like to change it? And then like we have like these principles, basically saying that 90% of relationship is not transaction. It's us talking about weather, kids, vacation, sports, whatever. It's me not selling you anything, but me giving you something, and we building slowly trust. And if we slowly build trust, and if we follow, for example, these 3 principles, that every time when I talk with you, you feel that I have the expertise, you feel that I remember your name, you remember what kind of business we did so far, and so on. And if you feel that I care about you, like in some like authentic, genuine way, you'll build trust. And then transactions will just happen by itself. Because next time if you're a healthcare institution and you're selling me this idea, Mislav, look, we are here to prevent you from getting sick. I said, how do you mean you're here to prevent me from getting, but you're making money on if I get sick? In US right now, like when we are working on like few of these cases, for example, US is like the first country in the world in terms of like how much they invest per capita in healthcare. But they're in terms of outcomes, they're on like 27 or 28th place. Because they realize that the whole economy is about every time when someone gets sick, sell them as much like services or things as possible and make it as expensive as possible. That's how these companies actually make money. And now there are some other companies saying, that doesn't sound like a good deal for the customer. We all create actually companies that will make sure that you don't get sick. And it will be for free. We'll help you make good decisions. We'll actually monitor things and so on. Because then when you get sick, you won't shop around. You won't actually compare the prices in 5 different places. You won't actually see, you'll already know that we have a relationship, that I have your data, that I was there for you and so on. And you'll trust me that when I suggest you something, it'll make sense. So it was like similar here. And then we have like this kind of methodology, how we actually do it over time, so that basically like 90% of it is not selling. So this is like one big telco company, and with them we decided that they should talk with you on a weekly basis. If you can talk and you can be relevant to your customer on a weekly basis, I think like I can immediately value your company. You'll be more than $1 billion company in terms of value. If you can be relevant on a daily basis, you have a chance to be like $100 billion company if it's scalable on the global level. So we said, like, let's try to figure out, can you actually be valuable on a weekly basis? And then I was like, but what can we do? We cannot sell like the phones, or we cannot sell subscriptions on a weekly basis. We said, yeah, you cannot do it, but that's just a tool. That's not like the foundation of your relationship. Let's find something that's like more meaningful. And then we were targeting this feeling that like many people have, that's like the world is changing so fast that they cannot actually, they feel that they're left behind. Then we says like, okay, can you be a telco who is helping me like by educating me in some fun and actually entertaining way? Can you actually help me get a feeling that I'll know what's going on, that I'll have all these facts, all this knowledge, and so on, so that I feel better. So we would do like on a weekly basis, you would get like these kind of educational quizzes. Then we would also ask you questions about like who you are. Questions like, oh, are you more the coast or mountains person? Are you more, what do we have, like iPhone or an Android person, and so on. Although, like, if you would talk with this telco, they would just say, we want to know only one thing. And that one thing is, like, do these people have some available income that they could actually spend with us? And we said, like, no one will actually give you an answer to that question. Just, like, no one. That doesn't make sense. So we would ask you, like, a lot of random questions. Why? Because we are mimicking something like that humans are doing. Like if I ask you about your vacation, about the watch that you have, about like where do you live, how many kids, and so on, I'm actually profiling you in behind. And so we are using this methodology that's usually used to profile serial killers. So no serial killer in the world will, if you ask him like, are you a serial killer, will actually just tell you, oh my God, if you just didn't ask me that question, like, but now I need to say yes. Of course, they'll lie. But actually what works, you ask a lot of random questions, and then you're actually looking for patterns. And then, based on these random questions, we can actually learn a lot about you. For example, are you a price-sensitive person? If you are, we'll talk with you in a more rational way. Like, this from economical point of view, this makes the most sense for you. If you are not price-sensitive, we'll talk more in a way like you can get like so much more freedom if you do it in this way because you won't waste your time and so on. So there are like a lot of these things that we can actually profile. And then after 5, 6, 10 weeks, we would send you a message saying, look, we analyze how you're using our services. And here's a report. And we see also some inefficiencies, so we have like some recommendations. And then you would actually click, and we would just tell you, for example, this is an example for a person that's not price sensitive, and that's right now on prepaid, but it makes more sense for the person to go to postpaid. We would just tell you, look, it feels like you're wasting your time constantly. Every month you're buying this voucher, then you're actually buying these plus options, then you're doing this. You just feel you're wasting your time. Like, if you go postpaid, it'll be like hassle-free. And if you're afraid of contractual obligation, there's no contractual obligation. Do you want me to turn it on for you? So the funny thing was, like, when we actually we showed them this for the first time, they were like, and now we'll lead them to our landing page. And I said, like, where they will ask them, like, what's your name, what's your phone number, what's your identification number, and we said, like, no way. It's like, that's where the magic will disappear, because I'm creating you this feeling, like, I know you, I care, and so on. I cannot take you to a page where I ask you for your name again. And they said, like, but it's impossible for us to do it in this. And we said, like, we'll integrate via email. And they were like, what does it mean, integrate via email? We said, like, when AI closes the deal, AI will send you an email saying, Mislav now decided he wants to do this, and there will be a human who will actually do it manually, because we need to optimize for customer satisfaction. So what happened is that usually, like, when you send a message like this, only 3% of people would open it. Now more than 40% of people will open it. The best result ever that they had about like the conversion rate was like 1.5%, but it's usually like on average it's less than 1%. Now it's like 7%. And then, for example, would we analyze only people who were super engaged? It's like 68% of people wants to read this because they don't feel it's spam anymore. Now they feel it's part of the relationship. And this is my last slide. So my last slide is, again, the question from the beginning. I know that this is a conference where we should be talking about like, oh, how do you manipulate your data? How do you get all your data in one place? How you filter out things and so on. It's just like a tool that was relevant like 30 years ago. I know that like there are like a lot of people here still thinking about like, but there are so many inefficiencies. If we automate processes, we could save. Yeah, you could save. But you don't realize that there's a bigger movement happening here. And while you're optimizing something that on the short term or mid term actually makes some sense, in long term you already lost the game. If you're super ambitious right now, stop researching how to use ChatGPT, Claude, Perplexity, Bard, whatever, and so on and so on. Start thinking about designing things. There's like this thing that I hate about like there's an efficiency in my life that I really hate. That's like how we were all actually raised here. So my friends in California, for example, when they're actually raising their kids, they're teaching them this: find inefficiency, find market opportunity, figure out like the business model. And the workers, you'll find them in Ukraine, Croatia, India, and so on. Because here we are trained actually to see what are the tools that are available, and then we are trained to actually learn the skills so that we can be actually useful to people who are actually changing the world. And my message to you right now, we are in relationship economy. Start thinking about this, because if you are really super ambitious, this is where you'll actually have impact. Okay, thank you. Any questions, but only if they're like super provocative, and otherwise, no.
We actually don't have time for the questions right now, but we do have a coffee break for 15 minutes, so feel free to hassle Mislav while he's drinking his coffee.
Thank you.